This is something we've been focused on digital currencies for, a couple decades. This is something we've been focused on digital currencies for, a couple decades.
Right.
But you can implement it with a digital currency. And this is the hidden agenda. But they got to do two things. One, roll out the Cbdc, which they're doing, and get rid of cash. Those two things will go hand in hand. But we will end up worse than Communist China. Communist China, if you're on the bad list, you can't, it's a social credit score.
Yeah.
You can't buy a plane ticket. You can't buy a train ticket. You can't pay for your kid to go to a good school. Because you're on the blacklist
list,
because
yeah.
you did something on social media that said Xi Jinping looks like Winnie the Pooh, which he does. But that's
We're recording this.
But that's I say this on Twitter, so that's okay. But that's what we're getting to. That's the dark side of central bank digital currencies. But it's the real side. It's the real hidden agenda.
And that's why every single time Jay Powell is prompted in front of Congress, the Republican Jay Powell says, "We'll get back to you."
Yeah.
We're studying that. We're taking commentary.
That I think central bank digital currencies were concocted in hell by Satan himself. They are incredible control by governments over everybody's bank account, and they are they're going to create a void of privacy for every individual citizen. I think they're horrible, but I think that's where they want to go.
In the 21st century, we may see the emergence of a new massive class of useless people. People who have absolutely no economic value.
It's curious to get your thoughts on Bitcoin and Ethereum on the one hand versus all of the other, so-called altcoins, setting aside stablecoins. Do you have as constructive a view on the altcoin kind of universe as you do on Bitcoin and Ethereum, or are you really focusing on those two?
So we have a very large position in a smaller coin called Algorand. We think that has award-winning technology. We also think it solves for the trilemma. We also like Solana. But your question about Bitcoin and Ethereum, Tom, those are our two largest positions. As it relates to Bitcoin, we think that the improvement of the Lightning Network, the increase in applications, and the ease of transactions on Bitcoin, you're going to see a lot more commercial activity there. And of course, you have the merge coming with Ethereum, which is going to lower the transaction fees on that network. A lot of traders are probably buying that rumor, Tom. You're well familiar with this. They'll probably sell on the news of that merger, which is going to happen in mid-September. But again, I would caution people not to do that. These are great long-term investments. In the next 6 years, if we're right, if Bitcoin goes to $300,000 a coin, it will not matter whether you bought it at $20,000, $60,000. It's really not going to matter. And I'm just cautioning people. The future is upon us. It's happening sooner than I thought. The BlackRock news, I know you're looking at that. I'm looking at that saying, okay, finally Larry Fink is seeing the institutional demand. Otherwise, he wouldn't be setting up those products and he wouldn't be teaming up with Coinbase. And so when this stuff happens, I just want to remind people there are only 21 million Bitcoins out there, and you'll have a demand shock with very little supply.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And of course, guys, I come back with that video just to make you think. And make sure you like, subscribe, and spread the videos. Because right now, in the time that we're in, we definitely need to wake the masses. But we have Scaramucci says that Bitcoin can hit 300,000 in 6 years. Now we know Bitcoin and Ethereum is for the fourth industrial revolution. Right now, cryptos and stocks are getting a temporary pump because the Fed has not raised rates, and we know they're not putting a foot on the gas as far as rolling the balance sheet until September. So right now, this is just a temporary pump. Not your financial advice, not financial advice. Please do your own research. But we know the Fed is not done. We know the mission. And plus, this is Schmeet a year. Now we have the co-founder of Tether saying that most cryptos move together. And guys, we know why. It's because it's manipulated. The same way when we look at Tether, it's manipulated. When the Fed started shrinking this liquidity, we saw Celsius, BlockFi, Voyager take a big hit, but it was telegraphed. I warned you last year what was going to happen because the Fed was going to start shrinking. If I knew, I know for a fact they knew. It was all part of the plan. The big distraction. Keep all the eyes off the Fed. But now we see the billionaires, politicians, are pushing their own stablecoin and CBDCs. And now we see Ripple definitely pushing that. Brad Garlinghouse has said time and time again, they're here to help the banks, the central banks. And we see the CBDC being used in China and is used for total surveillance. CBDCs give the central banks even more power. And we know blockchain gives the NWO the all-seeing eye. And every day we're showing signs of the fall of America to Babylon. We have Chinese stocks delisting from the stock market. Guys, corporations are not going to leave capital. That defeats the purpose. These 4 companies totaled about $318 billion. That's just 4 companies. You do a dual listing in order to get more capital. Now that Biden has his Inflation Reduction Act, which is the Build Back Better, which is the 4th Industrial Revolution bill, it's time to end America to Babylon. And the rise of China the Dragon with that digital yuan backed by that digital SDR. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
William, thank you very much for being here. What do you pin on some of these recent rebounds? What are the key drivers?
Well, I think what we've seen is as Wall Street recovers, Bitcoin and crypto overall recovers. And keep in mind that almost all tokens are tightly correlated to Bitcoin. So wherever Bitcoin goes, the other tokens tend to go, and usually by some multiple if they're popular. So Bitcoin goes up 30%, Ethereum might go up 60%.
So there's...
I do. I think maybe with the exception of Bitcoin, all popular chains will be proof of stake, meaning they will use very little energy. They will be not using the traditional miners that Bitcoin uses, where they compete with each other and they generate a lot of computing power to do that competition. So Ethereum, of course, is the most used blockchain from a developer standpoint because it has smart contracts and whatnot. But I think in 5 years, virtually all chains will be proof of stake. I don't think there's been any issues with DeFi, true decentralized finance applications. It was CeFi, the centralized finance applications, masquerading as DeFi that had issues. So Celsius and BlockFi, and then the things like Luna that were used by both of those to generate a lot of returns. But I think most of the major DeFi applications and protocols did quite well, even with substantial volatility.
Bring it to, I guess, more of a practical level to make that distinction. What are the types of activities that you felt were not really DeFi and therefore have really not fared well?
So if you think of decentralized finance as mostly about using on-chain assets and doing everything on-chain, using smart contracts, so not a lot of human intervention, and it being fully transparent because anything on the blockchain you can see. So you could see if somebody was hypothecating the collateral you gave that smart contract to get a loan.
Right.
Whereas with CeFi, it's like any other, it's like a bank.
Right.
It's just owned by individuals. Those people took that collateral as deposits and they never revealed what they did with it. And of course, what they did with it is they put it into very risky applications, and I don't think fully understood the risks that they were taking with customers' money. So if anything, I think the transparency of DeFi has really awakened people to the fact that this is probably the right direction, and CeFi lending applications will have a harder time going forward.
What's going to happen? Because the stocks trade as if there is a real possibility, the stocks meaning the Alibabas of the world, that they are going to leave.
Well, let's start with the 5 that announced they are leaving for sure. Economically, it's a non-event, no big deal. These shares trade very little here in the U.S. The institutional ownership is very little here in the U.S. They trade much more in their H shares, their Hong Kong listed shares. So it really doesn't matter. Symbolically, it's very important because this is China saying, hey, these are gone and the next batch to go are the Alibabas, the JDs. That would be a big deal both economically and symbolically. Frankly, I think what you saw this morning means you aren't going to see any more Chinese IPOs here on the New York Stock Exchange, on the NASDAQ, or at least not very many. Look, people all around the world have built businesses and they've said, we want to list on the New York Stock Exchange. Why? Because it's credible. The market cap of U.S. listed companies is 50 billion. The next closest country is China and Hong Kong combined, not even half of that. So not only is it symbolically important in terms of credibility, but you come here because it's where the money is. This would hurt Alibaba. This would hurt JD.com. This would hurt Mother China. But this dispute may end up being intractable, and you very well may see these companies pick up and go home if this negotiation doesn't improve markedly.
We're going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
This effort. And China has big plans for this. They intend to seed their digital yuan into the global environment by giving it away to visitors at next winter's Olympics. When they arrive at the airport, they're going to get yuan digital wallets. They're going to receive digital yuan. They're going to use it throughout their visits to Beijing, and then they're going to take it back to their home countries. They see this as a huge advantage. Why? Because who controls the underlying protocols, who controls the underlying standards of the future of money will control the future of money.
Most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids' books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.